Madison Square Garden, New York City, 1974. A benefit concert for children's hospitals. Not a boxing match, not a press conference. A variety show. Entertainment, music, comedy, performances. The kind of event where celebrities showed up to support a good cause, and the audience came to see famous faces doing things they didn't normally do. Muhammad Ali was scheduled to appear, not to box, not to talk about boxing, just to make an appearance, say a few words, maybe recite some poetry, wave to the crowd. That was the plan. Show up, be Muhammad Ali for 10 minutes, let the audience see the champion, then exit. Simple. The garden was packed. 12,000 people. The show had been going for 2 hours. Musical acts, comedians, actors doing sketches. The energy was good. The crowd was happy. They'd already seen Sammy Davis Jr. sing, Diana Ross perform, Bill Cosby do stand-up. The caliber of talent was extraordinary. Everyone who was anyone in entertainment had shown up for this charity event. Ali was backstage waiting for his cue. He was 32 years old, had just beaten George Foreman in Zaire 2 months earlier. The Rumble in the Jungle had shocked the world by knocking out the unbeatable Foreman, was on top of the world, more famous than ever, more confident than ever. The comeback complete. He was wearing a tuxedo, not boxing gear, a perfectly tailored tuxedo that made him look less like a fighter and more like a movie star. He was pacing, not nervous. Ali was never nervous, but restless. That Ali energy that never quite settled, always moving, always thinking, always performing even when no cameras were watching. The stage manager approached him. "Mr. Ali, you're on in 5 minutes. Just go out there, say hello to the crowd, maybe tell them why you're here supporting the cause. Keep it to about 10 minutes, then introduce the next act." Ali nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He'd been thinking about something all day, something that had been bothering him, a conversation he'd had earlier that week with a reporter. The reporter had asked him what he thought his legacy would be, what people would remember him for. Ali had given his usual answer: the boxing, the championships, the fights, being the greatest. But the reporter had pushed back. "Sure, that's what they'll remember about the athlete, but what about the person? What do you want people to remember about Muhammad Ali, the human being?" The question had stuck with Ali. What did he want people to remember? The trash talk, the predictions, the rope-a-dope? Those were tactics, techniques, but what about the substance underneath? The stage manager came back. "You're up, Mr. Ali." Ali walked toward the stage. The announcer's voice boomed through the garden. "Ladies and gentlemen, he needs no introduction, the heavyweight champion of the world, the man who just shocked the world in Zaire. Please welcome Muhammad Ali." The crowd erupted. 12,000 people on their feet, applauding, cheering, screaming his name. Ali walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, hot. The audience was a sea of faces. He waved, smiled, did a little shuffle step. The crowd loved it. He took the microphone. Thank you. Please sit down. You're making me feel too important." Laughter. People sat. The garden settled into attentive silence. Ali stood at the microphone, looked out at 12,000 people, all of them waiting to hear what the great Muhammad Ali would say. Most expecting some poetry, some predictions, some classic Ali entertainment. But something happened in that moment. Standing on that stage, looking at all those faces, Ali made a decision. He wasn't going to do what was expected. He wasn't going to perform. He was going to do something he'd never done before. He was going to be completely, vulnerably, honestly himself. "I was supposed to come out here and tell you some poems," Ali began. His voice was different, quieter, no bravado, no performance, just Ali talking. "I was supposed to say some clever things, make you laugh, predict some things, be the Muhammad Ali you expect. But I'm not going to do that tonight." The crowd shifted, uncertain. This wasn't the Ali they knew. You know what I've been thinking about? Ali continued. I've been thinking about what happens when I'm gone. Not dead. Just gone from boxing, from being champion, from being young and fast and able to do the things I do now. What happens when Muhammad Ali is just a memory? What will you remember? The garden was silent. You could hear people breathing. Will you remember the fights, the knockouts, the championships? Sure, those are in the record books. Those don't go away. But what about the rest? What about the man who said those things, who lived that life? What about that? Ali paused, looked around the garden. 12,000 faces watching him, waiting. I've spent my whole life trying to be remembered, trying to be unforgettable. The poems, the predictions, the trash talk, the performance, all of it designed to make sure nobody ever forgets Muhammad Ali. But you know what I realized? I've been so busy being unforgettable that I forgot to be real. He started pacing the stage, not his usual energetic pacing, slower, more thoughtful. You see me as Muhammad Ali, the champion, the fighter, the performer, the poet, the predictor, the man who floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. And that's real. That's part of who I am. But it's not all of who I am. And I'm scared that when I'm gone, when the boxing is over, that's all you'll remember. The show, not the person. The crowd was mesmerized. This was not the Muhammad Ali they knew. This was something else, something deeper. I want to tell you something I've never told anyone publicly before, Ali said. Something I'm afraid of. Something that keeps me up at night sometimes. The garden held its breath. I'm afraid that I'm not as good as you think I am. Not as a fighter. I know I'm good at fighting. But as a person, as a human being, I'm afraid that all this confidence, all this bravado, all this I am the greatest stuff is just me trying to convince myself that I'm worthy of your attention, that I matter, that I'm more than just a kid from Louisville who learned to punch. You could have heard a pin drop. 12,000 people absolutely silent. You want to know the truth? Ali's voice was almost a whisper now, the microphone barely picking it up. Most of the time, I don't feel like the greatest. Most of the time, I feel like I'm trying to live up to the person everyone expects me to be. The trash talk, that's armor. The predictions, that's me trying to control things I can't control. The performance, that's me hiding behind a character so you don't see the scared kid underneath. Stood center stage, looked directly at the audience. And I'm tired. Not physically. I can still fight. I can still move. But I'm tired of performing, of always being on, of never being able to just be quiet, to just be normal, to just be a man without having to be Muhammad Ali. Tears were visible on his face now. The great Muhammad Ali crying on stage in front of 12,000 people. I came out here tonight planning to give you what you expected, the show, the performance, the Ali you paid to see. But I can't do it anymore, not tonight. Tonight I need to be honest. I need to tell you that I'm scared. Scared of getting older. Scared of losing. Scared of being forgotten. Scared of not living up to the legend. Scared that when all of this is over, when the lights go out and the crowds go home, I'll realize that Muhammad Ali was just a character I played, and I never figured out who the real person was underneath. The silence in the garden was profound, like everyone was witnessing something they weren't supposed to see, something private, something real. I'm telling you this because I want you to remember something, Ali said, his voice strengthening. I want you to remember that the person you're watching right now, the person standing on this stage, crying and being vulnerable and being honest, that's the real Muhammad Ali. Not the champion, not the performer, not the greatest, just a man, a flawed, scared, hopeful man who's trying his best to matter, to make a difference, to be worth remembering, not because of what he did in a boxing ring, but because of what he stood for, what he believed in, what he was willing to sacrifice. He wiped his eyes, looked out at the crowd. I've given you a lot of performances, a lot of shows, A lot of moments you'll remember. The fights, the quotes, the predictions that came true. But I want you to remember this moment too. The moment when I stood on this stage and told you the truth. That being the greatest isn't about never being scared. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. It's about being vulnerable and being honest and being real, even when it would be easier to hide behind a persona. The crowd was completely still. Some people were crying, others were just staring. 12,000 people witnessing something they'd never seen before. Muhammad Ali without the armor. "I don't know what you'll remember about me when I'm gone," Ali said quietly. "I hope you remember the boxing, the championships, the stands I took. But more than that, I hope you remember that I was human, that I struggled, that I doubted, that I was scared. Because that's what made everything else meaningful. The courage doesn't count if you're not afraid. The greatness doesn't matter if it comes easy." He put the microphone back on the stand, started to walk off stage, then stopped, turned back to the audience. "Thank you for letting me be real tonight. Thank you for seeing me. Not Muhammad Ali the champion, just Muhammad Ali, the person." He walked off stage. No music, no applause, just silence. For about 10 seconds, the garden was absolutely quiet. 12,000 people processing what they'd just witnessed. Then someone started clapping. Slow, deliberate. Then another person. Then another. Then suddenly the entire garden was on its feet. Not cheering, not screaming, just applauding. Respectful, moved, grateful. The applause lasted for 5 minutes. But Ali didn't come back out. He'd said what he needed to say, done what he needed to do. Backstage, the stage manager approached him. "Mr. Ali, I've never seen anything like that." Ali was sitting on a couch, head in his hands. "I don't know what happened out there. That wasn't what I planned. That was the most real thing I've ever seen on the stage. People are crying out there. I shouldn't have done that. I was supposed to entertain them." "You did something better than entertain them. You connected with them. You showed them something true." The benefit concert continued. Other performers went on. The show ended, people went home. But something had changed. Something had shifted. 12,000 people had seen Muhammad Ali in a way they'd never seen him before. Here's the strange part. In the days and weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. People who had been at the garden that night started talking about the event, about the performances, about Sammy Davis Jr. and Diana Ross and Bill Cosby. They remembered those performances clearly. But when they tried to remember what Muhammad Ali did on stage, they couldn't. Not because it wasn't memorable, but because it was too memorable, too real, too vulnerable. Their minds had protected them from it. They remembered that he appeared. They remembered being moved. They remembered crying. But the specific words, the specific moments, they couldn't recall them. It was like their brains had filed it away in a place too sacred to access casually. Journalists who covered the event tried to write about Ali's appearance. They all agreed it was remarkable, powerful, unlike anything they'd seen. But when they tried to quote what he said, they realized they couldn't remember the exact words. They had the feeling of it, the emotion of it, but not the content. Like trying to remember a dream that felt profound, but faded when you woke up. No recording of that performance exists. The benefit concert was recorded, but during Ali's segment, the equipment malfunctioned. Or that's what the official story says. The tape from those 10 minutes is blank, just static. Like the universe decided some moments are too raw, too real, too human to be preserved on film. Years later, Ali was asked about that night at the garden. The journalist mentioned that people remembered being there, but couldn't remember what he said. Ali smiled, that knowing Ali smile. Sometimes the truth is so powerful that your mind can't hold on to it. It just washes over you and changes you, and then it's gone. Like a wave. You can't catch a wave. You can only feel it move through you. But don't you want people to remember what you said? I don't need them to remember the words. I need them to remember the feeling. That's what matters. Not what I said, but what it made them feel. If 12,000 people left that garden feeling like it was okay to be vulnerable, okay to be scared, okay to be human, then the words don't matter. The message got through anyway. The journalist pressed, "But surely you remember what you said?" Ali paused, thought about it. "You know what? I don't. I remember standing on that stage. I remember feeling something break open inside me. I remember crying. I remember the silence. But the actual words, they're gone. Maybe they needed to be gone. Maybe they were just for that moment, for those people. And once they served their purpose, they dissolved. There's a theory about that night, about what happened to those 12,000 memories. The theory is that Ali did something so unprecedented, so contrary to his public persona, that it created a kind of cognitive dissonance. People's brains couldn't reconcile vulnerable Ali with champion Ali. So instead of rejecting one or the other, their minds kept the feeling and released the specifics, kept the transformation and released the mechanism. Another theory is simpler, that some moments are too perfect to preserve, that the act of trying to hold on to them destroys them, like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it disappears. Maybe Ali's performance that night was one of those moments, perfect in its impermanence, powerful because it couldn't be replayed. Whatever the reason, what happened at Madison Square Garden in 1974 became legend precisely because nobody could quite remember it. People who were there knew something extraordinary had happened, knew they'd witnessed Muhammad Ali at his most authentic, but they couldn't tell you exactly what that looked like, couldn't quote the words, couldn't describe the specifics. They just knew that for 10 minutes, the greatest boxer in the world had stopped being a boxer and started being a human being. And it had changed something in them, something they couldn't name, something that didn't need words. In the decades since, people have tried to recreate that night, tried to piece together from fragments and memories and half-recalled feelings what Ali said on that stage. But every reconstruction feels wrong, incomplete, like trying to paint from a dream. Maybe that's the point. Maybe Ali's greatest performance wasn't the rumble in the jungle or the thriller in Manila. Maybe it was 10 minutes on a stage in New York, when he stopped performing altogether, when he let 12,000 people see the man behind the myth. And maybe the fact that nobody can quite remember it, that it exists only as a feeling and a certainty that something profound occurred, makes it more powerful than any perfectly preserved recording ever could be. The lesson is both simple and complex. Sometimes the most unforgettable moments are the ones we can't quite remember. Sometimes the greatest impact comes not from what we say, but from the courage to say it. Sometimes being vulnerable in front of 12,000 people is braver than fighting in front of 100 million. Muhammad Ali erased 12,000 memories that night, not by doing something forgettable, but by doing something so honest, so real, so human, that the mind couldn't categorize it, could only absorb it and be changed by it, and then release the specifics while keeping the truth. If this story moved you, as you felt something reading about a moment nobody can quite remember, but everyone who was there knows mattered, then maybe you understand what happened that night. Maybe you're feeling an echo of what those 12,000 people felt. A knowing without knowing, a memory of something you didn't experience, but recognize as true. Subscribe if you believe some moments are too real to record. Share this with someone who needs permission to be vulnerable. Comment if you've ever experienced something so profound you couldn't quite hold on to it, but knew it changed you anyway. And remember, being unforgettable sometimes means being impossible to remember. Being greatest sometimes means admitting you're scared. Being Muhammad Ali sometimes means stopping to be Muhammad Ali and just being yourself.